All right. Hello, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Just for contextualizing where we are at, this is day 2 of a 2-day digital conference that we're holding on preparing for 100-year lives. And yesterday, we covered a series of 5 workshops, which basically talked about the transitionary or softer aspects of different kinds of assets that we need to build up in order to power us through the different transitions that we will be making in the course of our 100-year life. However, Bold actually, in the course of doing our work with young adults and graduating students over the course of the last 3 years with regard to career design and career transitions, we realized that at the end of our 3-day Do Your Life kind of program, we'll unleash our students who had come into our career design course onto the world, and they will be actually then struggling with actually practical issues with regard to how do I actually finance these transitions and what do I do in terms of the practical aspects of how I prepare for these transitions. And as such, today, what we are covering in the webinar is actually the culmination of then further thought about how we get into this very practical aspect with regard to financing of 100-year lives. And with that, we have worked together with Kai. We looked in our networks for expertise in this area, and we found Kai, and I'll leave him to introduce himself and his history in this area a little bit more later. But basically with 15 years in his practice as an independent financial advisor, and I think very significantly actually also having powered through his own transition into a new career, which I'll leave him to do the big unveil. So just a little bit with regard to the norms of how we're going to run the webinar for today. So we're going to run this webinar style. So if you are just waking up to your Sunday morning and you don't want us to see your sleepy faces, it's okay, absolutely okay if you decide to keep your videos off. But please participate actively in the polls, because that will help us to get a sensing of who is in the room and help us to adjust and tailor our content as we go along the webinar today. As well as the reaction button and the chat functions. If you have questions as to how this might relate, or reactions as to how this is resonating with you, please feel free to pop in the chat. If there's anyone's question or comment who resonates with you, let's say Clarice puts in something and then she has a question that you want to lift up because it's also a question that you have, you can just put +1 Clarice so that we know like basically what are the questions that's resonating in the room. So with that, maybe I can pass over to Kai to do a quick introduction kind of about yourself and what brings you to this work and how this topic resonates with you. And then after that, get ready for the first poll, because that's what I'll be launching to get a sensing of who is in the room and what your relationship with finance is, so that we have a good background with regard to that before we begin the webinar. So over to you, Kai, for a quick introduction.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Hey, sorry, I'm not very used to doing this Zoom and webinar thing. Just a quick intro. I got very interested in finance from when I was very young. I can recall that I think in my time, I think many of you are quite young, but in my time, I was flipping through like the business sections of the newspapers when I was just in primary school, not understanding or knowing what it's all about. But so when I got out and when I graduated, I took a course in econs and stats, and when I came out of school, I started as a research analyst in a firm doing fund management research. Thereafter, I went on to do a bit of financial advisory work and fund management work, and help to start a company as an independent financial advisor. And the last finance work that I did was just running a fund that is a private investing fund that is about $300 million of clients' monies. And then, of course, I think just interestingly coming to relating to this whole thing, then I had a little transition in which I actually spent time in starting a plant-based cafe and a brand for the past about 4.5 years or so. Yeah, and on the side, I spend time doing consulting for firms and also for clients who need some financial help. Yeah, so that is a quick backdrop of just where I come from. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. So actually the relevance is both in terms of your background and experience in doing finance work, but I think importantly also because you have experienced what it's like to make a transition and maybe can relate to people who are about to make them. All right, great. So with that, I am going to launch the first poll, and please participate in it. I will leave it open for the next 10 seconds or so. And this will just help us to get a sensing of who is in the room and how you relate with finance. Because today's topic is actually going to be about financial advice that's too simple to be true, avoiding advice that derails. So we are suspecting actually also that you are in here because you relate to this in a particular way. All right, I'm seeing the answers come in. There's just a couple more. We'll wait for them to get in here. Okay, so for everyone so far, okay, so I'm gonna show the results, and maybe Kai can then take a look at what that might mean for how he might be relating with the audience that we have for today. Okay, well, number one is kind of a trick question. Obviously, it's an important goal for you, otherwise you would not be here spending your Sunday morning with us. We are slightly about half-half with regard to people having made a plan for your achieving financial independence. And if yes, that is wonderful. If not, I think today is a great start. That's why you are here. The very interesting one, let's take a look at the emotions that we have when it comes to dealing with finances. Kai, do you want to kind of make a comment on whether some of these surprise you or?
Sorry, I actually can't see the responses. How do I see that? Ah, okay. Now I see the poll result. Oh, wow. Interesting. The rate is just, there's many people responding to that, right?
Also, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just standing for like fear, worry, and overwhelm. It's like all red. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think as just a quick as a quick start, I think when it comes to finance, a lot of times I think we think that it's complicated. We think that it is difficult to understand. But I think actually over just 15 years and training over maybe more than 1,000 different professionals and about probably walking through about 10,000 clients cases or so, I think there can be a lot of very simple principles that if we hold close to, we can probably make a better decision for ourselves. And it is not all that I think challenging or difficult. Yeah. So, and I just for the context of this thing, and as when I was talking to Bo and to Yok and the team, we try to be able to simplify some nuggets of a little layman things to understand. I don't think we would be expecting to go through any of these challenging terminologies of finance or even products. I think maybe at the later webinars in the afternoon, we will run through some frameworks. But I think just in the morning today, we're just going to do something a bit more light touch. And I think if you have any questions or things that you want to find out and figure more about, feel free to ask them in the chat or somehow. I'm not very good at the functions of the Zoom, so yeah. So we can get, yeah.
Great, wonderful. So with that, we are actually going to launch another poll that is actually just sussing out what your current perceptions are with regard to this question. Cool. So for this first webinar, as Kai talked about, you'll be very much at the principal level, but we're hoping that this helps you to look at whatever ads that Facebook puts in your way or Instagram in a slightly different way. I must say that even while discussing this content with Kai, I learned that there were some things which I had believed were true, which were actually myths. Okay, so there are two more people who are undecided. Just put your stake on one, you have 50% of getting it right. Okay, wonderful. All right. So over to you, Kai. Let us know if you felt surprised at this.
I am actually quite interested to know if anybody could just be, I don't know, typing a word or two about their choices and why they made these choices to be true or false. Is that too much to ask for on an early Sunday morning?
I can chime in even though I don't really want to on my video. It's Sarah here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easier to just unmute. Because I think with investments, we always hear financial analysts telling us that like those with higher percentage rewards, like it means that it's more volatile. like the market. Yeah, so I think the risk comes with the volatility. But then we're also told that if you put the money in for a longer period of time, the volatility will even out. But I don't know how true that is.
Sarah, did you pick true or false?
I picked true.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll unmute. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for your support. Can we hear for anybody who has picked false? Yeah. I mean, you can type it in the chat group if you want to, Oh,
Did you see Audrey in the chat?
yeah. So for that, I think we have to engage a magician. No, just kidding. I think okay. I think where this is really interesting because in just the past almost 20 years in the finance industry, people just bandy around and throw around terms to overly simplify certain things. I think one of the objectives we can just live here with some understanding of some terms that's better defined. I hope that we can all have better choice, have better way of making decisions. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think Kit Boon made a really, really interesting point, okay, because I think that is what we are going to be touching a little bit after this poll, yeah. What do I think of value investing? Just a very quick response to that, okay, I am a big believer of value investing. The caveat is that I think value investing also has got to be moving with the times of what we live in today. Yeah, we can probably be able to take a deeper conversation around that, not so as not to be able to leave out, I think, many who could just be starting out the journey in finance. Yeah. Yeah. So can I get going? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we just need to be able to define what really is risk, right? And what is the link with this? What is the thing with this term of high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward thing, Yeah. So I think in strictly financial terms, risk is defined actually as the probability of loss. Yeah. So actually anything with high risk just means a high probability of loss. A very extreme example that I would probably give coming from a statistics student, right, is that anybody has any idea when you buy a lottery, okay, right, what is your probability of loss? Could we, anybody just type in a number, Okay, 95% from me. Anybody else want to give it a go? Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Okay, I see that we are all quite well educated about this probability of loss. So I think when we start to really understand this definition of probability of loss, right, we know that an outcome and expectation is really about this probability of loss, or rather probability of gain times the actual reward. Yeah. So which is that, hey, if 0.0001% times even $10 million ang pao toto during Chinese New Year, right, it's going to give a net result of maybe something like, I don't know, $1,000 dollar net. And in finance, I think a couple of other things that I will raise up, and I mean, people in my generation, I am almost 40. People in my generation, I don't know, and if some of you ever watched soccer, I don't know if you've come across some of these companies, right, which borrow celebrity status, and they borrow some of these branding status to be able to put up their investment schemes. Not too long ago, about 10 years ago, there's a Sunshine Empire. Anybody heard of Sunshine Empire? No, nobody? What about profitable plots? Sunshine Bread, okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think in my time when I first graduated, that was in 2003. That was almost 20 years ago, right? And then the rage then actually was a lot of these programs of people doing commodities investing, right? And then about 5 years after that, we have these so profitable plots. People are talking about doing land banking. You know, you invest in land that is not developed yet. And once developing permissions are given to this land, then you make a huge fortune out of it. Then you have Sunshine Empire. Okay, I see iQuadrant and e-commerce marketing now. Okay, so that then Sunshine Empire was all about, you know, hey, put in a sum of money every month you can get, I don't know, 3 to 5% or even 10% returns. And then in I think more recent times, there's a lot of these property seminars, I guess, postulating how to be able to get high rewards. Yeah. So I think the context of this is that if you ask me, my answer to the high risk, high reward and low risk, low reward thing is that it is false to a good extent, because if you define high risk as a probability of loss, actually then anything with high risk, right, has got no rewards. Yeah. So I think it's important to understand that a lot of oil salesmen and all kind of people who are postulating and coming to you with high rewards, I think the importance is just to be able to understand and quantify what exactly is the risk that you're taking for whatever is the rewards. Yeah. So I think, I mean, just bringing up some of these points that I think nobody have heard of before because it's too long ago, is that most people who are putting forward an idea about investing or about doing any financial decisions often highlight a lot of the rewards that comes with it, right? But not necessarily the risk that comes along with it. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's really the point about understanding that, you know. Yeah. So I think be aware of the unspoken part, and the advice I would give to any of these instruments that, you know, hey, anything that comes to you with actually either high risk, okay, right, or no risk, okay, right, stay far away from. Yeah, siam very far away from it. Yeah. And anybody who comes to you with a no risk instrument, right, also siam very far away, because in life there's no such thing as no risk. Yeah. Anything that actually sounds too good to be true really could be too good to be true, and that's really in our experience over the past 20 years with a lot of clients, you know. Yeah. And I think it's actually in response to answering just that we are just going to highlight some of these possible derailers, I think, that could happen in your financial life. And if you could be able to just skip 1 or 2 of these pitfalls, I think actually most people should do decently well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Audrey raised a question as to, could you just explain again why this is false?
Yeah, so I think from the financial context, so if you define risk as a probability of loss, right, anything with a very high probability of loss actually has got no rewards, because you are not likely to be able to get any rewards out of it. Yeah. So I think this is from a financial perspective and not really just from I mean, context of like in life and you do different ventures and stuff like that. But I think he's talking about just in the context of finance. If the probability of loss is high, we should probably avoid it, because 99.9% of the people who venture in it are probably going to lose all the money. Yeah. So,
sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? So I wanted to ask, what is considered high? Like how many percent because the high risk?
What is high risk? I think in as a rule of thumb, I mean, if there's a very high probability of loss, it just means that very few people are going to be able to make a good are going to have a good outcome in anything in it.
I'll rephrase the question. So like when somebody is presenting to us a possible investment opportunity,
yeah,
how do we know that, okay, this one is high risk equals to zero reward?
You can come by at what, 2 p.m. is it? Are we doing a 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. later?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll probably cover a bit more about some of the frameworks. How do you assess risk later in the sessions in the afternoon?
Okay,
yeah, today we just really, I mean, this morning I thought we just want to do a light introduction of, you know, some myth and facts and what you can be aware of. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Maybe I can also just do a quick recap based on what I learned when I was speaking to Kai. So I had tapped in there that basically the expected return is the probability times the potential return. And I think what a lot of investment seminars out there, they hype up the potential return, but they do not actually touch on what is the actual probability of that return coming in. right? Which is why I think up on the slide, what Kai is talking about is understand the unspoken risk. So if anybody comes to us with a investment proposal that talks just a lot about the potential high returns, but never touches on whether there is a risk or not, then it is a signal that probably it's a question that I should be asking, which is what is the actual probability of the thing going south or the thing going up? So that's kind of what I got from it. And I think with regard to the other question, with regard to how much risk is too much risk, aside from the 2 and 4 p.m., which comes talking about what is the framework, but there is also this other second question here, which is asking ourselves, to what extent can I bear the potential loss? Yeah. So with regard to that also, I think Kit Ban also has a comment about if we take care of the downside, the upside will take care of itself, and whether that is true.
I think Kit Ban can probably run this seminar. Yeah. Yeah. So I think largely it really is about the principle of that. I think we just need to first identify risk, and then if you can manage it, then naturally we can lower the risk. And when we lower the risk, then we have a much higher chance of winning. So I think it's just like any game that we play, we need to understand the rules of the game. And the rules of the game in finance is just commonly misunderstood, or rather is mythified. And so I think we're just going to spend a bit of time this morning just addressing some of the major ones. Yeah. So I think just one question to be able to ask yourself about like this risk, right? So a lot of times the planning is really a fair bit of art plus science, right? So here we're just trying to answer a bit of the science part of it. But one question that you can always ask about any opportunities that come along, right? That I always do is that what are my possible recourse should something like this fail? Yeah. So I think if you have a difficult way being able to find a recourse, right, then that's already one big signal of why you should shy away from such an opportunity. Then secondly or thirdly, the couple of other questions that I will be asking is that what actually is your actual need to be able to partake in these investments? Yeah, what is your actual objective? This is just because it sounds really good and so you don't want to miss out on it, or that hey, it does really fulfill some of these key objectives that I probably would love to be able to achieve, right? And then thirdly, from there, you may want to ask yourself, actually, are there any other possible opportunities or instruments that can help me achieve these goals without having to jump onto this fancy program of whatever quadrant thing? I think we should try to refrain from using existing names until they are proven to really be not working for most people, like Profitable Plots or Sunshine Empire. Yeah. I hope that answers some of the questions. Yeah.
Wonderful. With that, maybe we can move on to topic number 2.
Okay.
And I have another poll for you to respond to.
This is absolutely yes. I mean, right? Who will say no to this, right?
Just a disclaimer, it doesn't mean POSB is necessarily bad. It's just because we thought everyone can identify with having a POSB savings account.
Oh, good, right? I mean, if his answer is yes, it's good, right?
All right, we have all the answers. Okay, Kai, the results are up.
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting because anybody who wants to just have a quick response on what the answer was and like why.
Okay.
Hi.
So I chose no for the answer. I think it's because that if I don't understand investing, the next step I should do is to learn about investing. So it suggests a growth mindset where we try to learn and improve ourselves every day, rather than just assuming that I am bad at investing and I will forever be bad at investing. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that is a really interesting look at it. And I think, I don't know, are you relatively younger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
20s.
And 20s, yeah. I think that's what been amazing about what I see from a lot of our younger generation who is really striving to, hey, if I don't know something, I don't shy away from it, but I take steps to be able to get to know it, understand it, try it, yeah. So yes. Anybody else has anything? Yeah.
Hi,
maybe we can hear from someone who said yes, and kind of what was your thinking process behind that?
Oh yeah, I said yes. I was trolling, but yeah. Anybody else who said yes? And
Can you hear me?
no?
For me, I put yes.
Yeah. Why?
Mm,
Are you a long-term POSB supporter and fan?
I think it could be that I've always just like put my money in that account, and maybe it's like the resistance to like just change it. Like maybe like, oh, it seems very troublesome, or that's like my initial response.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I think in also the time working with like this many thousands of clients, I think we just we don't have to think of finance as something that actually is separate from us, because actually humans are very habitual beings, and our financial decisions are actually a reflection actually of just our habits that we have. And I mean, if something is not broken yet, then why would I do anything different, you know? And so I think that is really interesting. But I think I hope that we can be able to, with some basic learning from understanding some of these, I guess with simplifying some of these financial myth, right, we can probably take a step forward with some of the financial decisions that you make in our life, just as you would make them in your career or in your relationships, you know. Yeah. So I think the point that I would like to raise up with that poll is that, and a lot of people suffers actually from from paralysis by a lack of decision that they make. Yeah. So in investing, actually, an indecision is really a decision, and it is costing you. So I won't go into the details of it, but actually we all know that, hey, 20 years ago, what a cup of coffee would cost and what it would cost today. And it really just means that inflation is just surely going to eat away at your monies. But I think the bigger context of it is that the indecision should not be the choice that you make, because it is actually the default choice that every year with just a baseline inflation, not to mention a change of a lifestyle inflation, right? You're actually going to lose money just leaving money in a bank account, and that's a certainty. Yeah. And just learning from just our friends who shared about figuring out and taking a couple more, I suppose nowadays webinars, and or just reading up about more choices, or looking just for a good person who you can be able to relate to and who is a professional in the field, can probably help you forward in this journey of financial planning independence, you know. Yeah, just we have 100-year life, you know, so it's a long time to plan for. Yeah. All right, should we get going with do you have a comment for that, Yo?
Oh no, would you like me to launch the next poll? So
Yeah,
I guess basically you're saying that if our money stays in the savings account, it's 100% guarantee of that we're losing money, right?
Yeah, so you can probably today, if you can buy a cup of coffee to in I don't know, in 10 years time, you can probably buy half a cup of coffee, you know. That's just what life is. So today you can buy a 4 or 5 room HDB flat, and then the same money probably you can be able to just buy, I don't know, 1 2 room HDB flat. Yeah, so it's absolute, it's a guaranteed loss, you know, in that context of it. Yeah, not to say that if you take any decisions it's a guaranteed gain, but not taking a decision is a guaranteed loss. Yeah.
So in your experience, has it been very common that you see a lot of people who kind of like are losing money because of this indecision?
I think almost all the time, you know. Yeah, because I think it's interesting, because it's like, hey, if I've okay, it's very my generation thing, right? You know, if I've never played Monopoly before, right, how do I know what's the rules of the game? You know, I have no idea. I don't know what I don't know, you see. So a lot of people find that when they have got no clue about what's happening in the financial world, they have no clue how to go about gaming and winning the game, you know. And so there's a lot of inefficiencies, and then of course then you have a lot of a million and one salesman who comes along and tout A, B, and C and D to do and sell, you know. But actually below it all, there are a lot of, there's a wealth of online resources that you can read up about, even from just, okay, I don't know if you're a fan of it, but in my generation, everybody hates the CPF. I don't know if it's still the same today, but CPF website has got some very decent resources and tools. And the question about going to any of these resources and spaces, right? Actually, again, the key question is always to follow the money, okay, which is that, hey, why are these websites being set up? how do they make their money. Okay, nothing wrong with them making money out of the websites or whatever that they are doing. Okay, but just understand the risk that comes along with, hey, if they are an affiliate site, they have a tendency to push certain biases. Just understand the risk and then know that that is a risk that you just need to manage. You know, yeah. So a lot of these, a good number, okay, of these government set up websites are actually relatively neutral, and their bias is actually their aim is to equip Singaporeans so that we are more financially ready, and so there's a lesser burden on the government to have to work harder to build more safety nets. Does it make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to check in later with Audrey whether she's convinced now to take the money out of her POSB savings account and put it somewhere else. But we'll check in on that later. Okay. With that, let me launch the third and last poll for today. And this is relevant to Kai's point just now on playing the game, playing the finance game. Okay, just one more. All right. I'm going to share the results. Okay, almost everyone got it right.
Oh.
Knowing that it is true that 10% of the world's population owns 85% of the world's wealth. And just a couple of years ago, actually, there was this other statistic that actually 1% of the world's population owns more than half of the world's wealth. So I don't know which one is more fascinating and shocking to you, but the latter stat is what made the news a couple of years ago.
Hey, can we have just, I don't know, one person who said true or one person who said false be commenting on, just a quick comment on that? No, everybody has dropped off the call. So I think sorry.
Oh, Gin, who said it's false, had actually thought there's even a smaller percentage that own 85% of the wealth.
And
May has a very good point.
Yeah, and actually, how do you all feel about it? You know, yeah, I'm just really curious to understand, how do you feel about this phenomenon that's happening? You know, so do you feel helpless about it? Do you feel, you know, oh, okay, angry? Yeah, yeah. It's easy to make capital returns after you have the capital. Yeah.
I think May's point is also about how it's easier to make more money after you have the capital. So it means that people who don't have the capital, it's much more difficult to get into that 10% or even, I guess, 20, 30% because we don't have the capital to start with to make more returns. So I'm just wondering whether in the investing world that is the case. Hope to join them.
Yeah, so I think just a very quick one. I mean, I think it's really true, but everybody begins somewhere, you know. Hey, just a little background. So my father passed away when I was really young at 3 years old, and my mom was just a clerk, and she had to raise me and my sister for years. And so I was lucky because I got a break and an opportunity to be able to study in Singapore. And I think, you know, just being in, I mean, I was from Malaysia originally, right? And just being in Singapore has opened a whole new, I think, opportunities to be able to strive and to make a very decent income. And I think there's, I mean, when I graduated, I think a good number of people would be like me. I graduated with a debt, you know, and I had to had commitments to rent a place, pay off loans and all the stuff. But I think, yeah, I think a journey of, I don't know, 1,000 miles begins just with the first step in the right direction, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I don't mind being the 20th to 50th percentile, but curious of that 10%. Okay.
As in curious how they got there or what?
Yeah, so I think just a little myth to debunk, right? That I think a lot of people would think that, hey, the 10% who owns, I don't know, 85% of the wealth, right? It's because they inherited them or that they got lucky, or I think in my real experiences, more than half of these people who are the 10%, right, are actually self-made, you know. So in their generation, they actually has built up the wealth to be at this to be at this 10%, and a lot of it got to do with just them having, I mean, and most of them would probably be able to give you some common sense advice of, you know, avoiding key pitfalls and making good decisions that brought them to where they are. So not all of this. I think the 1% that owns 50% of the world, probably a good amount of it has to be inherited. Yeah, so we see very few who really makes that kind of stratospheric wealth for just over one generation. Yeah, but okay, well, the point I would want to be able to bring up is that so most of these people are able to do that, and actually just from 30 years ago, the statistic is something like 20% of the wealth, 20% of the people own 80% of the wealth, right? And today it's 10% owning 85% of the wealth, right? And I think we continue to see this growing because I think most people do not understand that the difference actually is just in the paradigm of preparation. Yeah. So in down cycle, in down times, in economic recession times, like what do you actually really do? You know, what do you plan for? Yeah, because money actually is never ever lost, right? So some people will say I lost money in this investment or that investment. Actually, money, interestingly, is something that is never lost. Okay, it merely transfer hands. You know, so once money is created, it's never lost. It merely transfer hands, right? That means every time when somebody loses, right, somebody else must be gaining. Okay, so I think it's important to understand the key point of this wealth transference. Okay, and actually every recession, okay, is a major opportunity for wealth transference. Okay, just a quick one, right? How many of you know? How many of you have heard of Citibank? Yes. DBS? Yes. No. Yeah, I think most people would have heard of it. Okay. So a really interesting one, and any of you who had any experience with the 2009 financial crisis, I think not so many of you, but even in the most recent, if you have followed the news, these COVID fears, right? This Citibank in 2009, okay, today Citibank stock price is something like $44, okay. Anybody want to guess during the financial crisis, right? What could you buy Citibank shares at? Yeah. I run a little plant-based cafe, so you know when I ask questions and if you get it right, probably reward you with some ice cream and coffee. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, $10, $4 from King Su and May. No. 6, 5. So I think DBS shares is about $22 now. Yeah, DBS went down to as low as $6.50 during the crisis. Yeah, Citibank is $44 now, and it went down to 97 cents during the financial crisis in 2009. You know, yeah, and I was one of the lucky one who have done a good amount of research, and I bought Citibank shares in 2009 at less than $1. Yeah, but did I wait for $40 to sell it? No, I sold it off at about something like $15-20. You know, yeah. So the point I want to make actually is that a lot of times we think that, hey, this 10% of it, people are just going to be lucky, inherited and all this, but actually a lot of it comes from preparation. So for, I started this journey in the finance in 2003, and a good number of our corporate and individual clients that our company was serving, and I was working as a risk analyst, we were actually preparing a good number of these clients, right? Because in 2003, we are probably in a mid-cycle situation, and prices were not extremely high, also not extremely low, but we were getting busy, not preparing for up market or upcycle. We were getting busy preparing, okay, for the next recession, because it is only during every recession, okay, that there is a tremendous opportunity for wealth transference, right? So when the 2009 financial crisis struck, right, we were aggressively helping a lot of our clients and ourselves to be able to buy into opportunities. It's a bit like shopping, you know. How many of you buy things when they are first launched and it's at the most expensive price points, right? And how many of you like to buy things during sales, you know? Sale? Yeah. So actually it's a lot of common sense, right? Because I mean, you basically, I guess when you buy during sales, you get you get more bang for your buck, right? And actually in financial tools, it's, yeah, iPhone launch, yeah. So actually at every iPhone launch, you just buy the iPhone that is 1 or 2 generations before that, and yeah, that is always actually how I buy iPhones, Yeah, sorry, I'm a Apple fanboy. Yeah. Side topic. Yeah.
So on that, actually, because you talk, I think it's quite a hopeful thing about recession being a period of wealth transference. And as I think we can all anticipate, one is coming right up because of the impact of COVID-19. So I'm just wondering whether you have anything to say about like this upcoming recession that's probably coming up.
Yeah, I think okay, so today's actually financial world is getting also is evolving. I don't think it is more or less complicated than in the past, but it's definitely evolving. I think the key trick about this is don't chase. Yeah. So if I'm not ready for this great sale in the financial world that is coming up, prepare for the next one. And I think it's really interesting because when I heard about this whole 100-year life thing from Yoke and Bowl, I think yeah, I'm hopeful, that actually there are going to be a lot of opportunities down the road, and you just really need to be able to make it good in a couple of them to be able to have a massive wealth transference. So you don't have to rush for it. If you're ready for this one and you have stocked up a lot of bullets, when a lot of assets prices start coming down, right, I think that's the time to be able to dibble at it and to buy into it. And if you are not ready for this one, hey, every market cycle is probably something like 7 to 10 years time, and in a 100-year life journey, and if you have a friend who was in the 20s, you probably have, I don't know, 5 to 7 opportunities to be able to take advantage of it. But the key is that be ready for it, So what does being ready for it looks like? I think number one, the context of being able to have a certain stability and a strong, if you are a first generation wealth builder like me, I just want to quickly introduce this concept of that our labeled wealth is going to be the biggest source of wealth that we are going to have in our lifetime. So whatever we make in our lifetime is going to be the biggest capital fund that we have to be able to multiply forward. Yeah. So I think stop just looking for something that can be able to help you have massive returns on the capital that you have, but rather focus on really building up this capital fund that can take advantage during these recessionary opportunities. Yeah. How do we know what to see and what are these opportunities? Yeah. So
Question about timing as well, like when is the right time?
When is the right time to invest? Awesome. I think these are really great and awesome questions. In the webinar in the afternoon, I think we are going to speak about a little bit. We're going to introduce a bit slightly more technical stuff. We're going to introduce a little framework that we have been using for a good number of our clients. And I think I mean, we have seen all kind of reports about most clients who invest 7 in 10 don't make money, right? Over a 15-20 years career in finance, not bragging, but I think our clients are the 2 and 3 in 10 who has I think it's really difficult to be able to lose money if you follow some base rules about investing. We may not make big but because that depends on the opportunities that comes along, but it's difficult to lose money when we stick to by some of these rules that we understand about finance game. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. With that, I think that is a great hook to ask you to please come back in the afternoon, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, where the topics is really about how we finance our 100-year life, what is the true cost of retirement. And for those people who are in the midst of considering a job transition, really like how do you go about discovering the money and options that you never thought you had. So as you leave the room, I'm going to bring up just the slides that come up with regard to the upcoming follow-ups that you can check out if you're interested. And I will also invite you to type in the chat just a reply to this prompt in terms of I used to think ... now I think ... So just want to hear from you kind of whether there's been any shift in perspective with regard to how you think about finance, or perhaps maybe even relating to the emotions question at the beginning, like whether you might feel differently about finance. So if I can invite you to just leave that in the chat while you go. And I am actually also just going to share with you. Yep. So if you'd like to click on this QR code as well, you can leave us your feedback with regard to what you're taking away from this 100-year life finance, our first finance webinar for today. Follow us on our socials. There'll be more upcoming interesting things where we'll continue to pursue this topic. And are you seeing the next slide? The curated clinics. Okay, yeah. So the webinar is kind of a general overview at the principal level. So if you'd like to take this and work more deeply into what it means for yourself, then we will be running clinics, which are small sessions with just a few people, where it will be an opportunity for you to take the framework and work with someone in terms of how you then apply that in your lives. Okay. And with that, that's it. Thank you very much for joining us on this Sunday morning. We hope to see many of you back here at 2 to 4 p.m. At 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. I mean, yeah. And so as you leave the room, please just pop in the chat. I used to think, now I think. Will these clinics be with Kai? Yes, Kai will be the one running these clinics.
We haven't discussed compensation for it, so.
Yeah.
Between us, it's big every day. I still remember who you are.
We'll see you at 2. And before, if you leave, you can just type in the chat. I used to think
upside down. Wherever you go, you got my love. Left or right, side to side. Wherever you go, you got my love. Sha la 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 la. You got my love. Sha la 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 la.
Go ahead, Jing. Kai is still here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Thank you, Samantha.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. I was just wondering if my speaker was working. Hi, Kai. Hi, Yok.
Hi.
Hello. I think it was a great webinar. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, like, just
For your
about.
encouragement. It's the first webinar that I'm doing. Like.
I'm looking forward to future ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I had a question/concern. I think this comes from just sort of looking at society as a whole right now. I feel like in general, me and also like maybe some friends that I know of, like there's a certain critique around the way the current financial system is built, the way that it feels very unsustainable because it's built based on this idea of like never ending growth. And that's why things like inflation, that's why things like, you know, the prices keep increasing, keeps happening, because as an ecosystem, we're all about growth. And clearly that is not like serving us or serving our planet. So I think my concern is, on one hand, while I do as an individual want to achieve, you know, financial independence, I also wonder if it feels slightly ironic to me that the way to go about it is also through the system. And I also wonder how through it I can keep to my own sense of ethics. So like, I find that difficult because I feel like in an increasingly interconnected world, like every decision that I make, so if I invest in, say, a huge company just to get rewards, like that company may be fueling certain other projects that are actually maybe devastating ecosystems around the world. So I find that difficult to reconcile, and I feel like that is a piece that is sort of in the way for me in actually making this step forward. So I wonder, like, if you have any thoughts on it, or what you think of it.
Yeah, we have to take a 3-hour webinar on it, like on itself, you know. I think just very quickly off the top of my head, I suppose a change is, I think to me change is a journey, right, rather than the destination itself, right? And I think we all contribute and do what we can where we are in our journey towards what we believe in, and so I'm a big believer of that. I would encourage you to read up a bit about if you have heard of Warren Buffett, no? Yes. Yeah. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, right? And I think these are people who I admire them, not for whatever journey or who they are as bosses whatsoever, but hey, I think they understood what is the game that they are playing in the world, right? And they made their fortune. And Warren Buffett has a pledge to be able to give 99% of his wealth to philanthropy. Bill Gates has started his Gates Foundation and has been actively involved in doing a fair bit of this work from, I think, more than a decade ago. So I suppose I would take a similar approach like them. You know, hey, I would aspire to be the change that I want to see in this world. And if in this current juncture and journey, I mean, it's a risk reward thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, even I don't know, even if you are trillionaire today, okay, which nobody really is as an individual, are you able to convince 7 billion people to, or 8 billion people now, to be able to change their mind? Not at first, but I think we can always sit and start something somewhere, you know. So all along, I think my interest in finance also was that, I mean, I started off making $2,500 as a research analyst, you know, and by the time I was running a $300 million fund, I was making $500,000 easily a year, and I was still eating actually the same. I mean, I'm a big fan of cai peng lah, so I used to eat cai peng, and I was still eating cai peng, and yeah. So there's a very little. I start to wonder what do I do with this money, is right? But in the journey, I discovered that, you know, hey, if we can master this game and be able to use the values and output or from this game towards a betterment of what we believe to be good, you know. And so of course I took a good number of these wealth transfers from others to set up my plant-based business and to build a new season of life with that, you know. So I think, yeah, I would just encourage you to be able to I think while there's a lot of conversations around how to invest better, how to invest in impact funds, you know. Of course, we can try away from companies which you absolutely abhor, you know, but they are a good. There's still a whole universe of you don't have to really compromise this, I think, investing with regards to the goals that you want to achieve, right? Yeah, and so I think, and today, if the I mean, in the financial world, money does talk to a good extent, right? So I think what is lacking in this world is people with both ideals, right, plus money, you know. Ideals, a lot of people has ideals, you know, and then we have a huge bunch of people with money, you know, right? And then also, why do we want to let the future of the world be controlled by people who just have money and no ideals, right? I mean, I think we could birth more people with ideals plus the capacity and the wealth to be able to make a difference. Yeah. So just my 1 cent worth.
So true.
Yeah, I love to take conversation with you about, you know, your thoughts on that. You know, come by for coffee. You know, shameless promoting our plant-based cafe.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll continue the conversation. We'll be hanging out in the Zoom room at 2 o'clock. See you back here.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.